This week is American Dream Week, according to the White House, but the line between dream and nightmare has been getting blurrier by the day. Donald Trump started out last week by going on the attack against his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, and delivering a highly political speech before the Boy Scouts, which the group later had to apologize for. Tuesday, he declared he was more presidential than any president except Lincoln. Wednesday, he tweeted a ban on transgender people in the military. Thursday brought his newly minted communications director, Anthony Scaramucci's vulgar tirade, which ultimately led to his being ousted from his position after just 10 days on the job, or 11, depending on whether you're rounding up. By Friday, Chief of Staff Reince Priebus was out. Then last night came yet more new information, which might not be as sexy to you, but may be to Special Counsel Bob Mueller. The Washington Post reports the president, quote, personally dictated the statement that his son initially gave the Times last month before the story broke about his meeting with those Russians. You know, the untrue statement claiming the meeting was primarily about an adoption program between the U.S. and Russia. Of course, we later learned that Trump Jr. took the meeting after his promised incriminating information about Hillary Clinton ahead of the election. Last night, the president's lawyer denied the Post report, saying in a statement, apart from being of no consequence, the characterizations are misinformed, inaccurate, and not pertinent. But then today came a slightly different story from Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
He certainly didn't dictate, but, you know, like I said, he weighed in, offered suggestion like any father would do.
Internal turmoil aside, there's also that health care failure. Just today, debt ceiling talks reportedly breaking up without progress and a looming deadline. And they say next up on the agenda is tax reform. Joining me for a reunion of sorts are my Boston Public Radio co-host, Margery Eagan, and conservative political commentator. That's okay, fine, whatever.
Herald columnist.
Whatever
my
it
friends
is.
at the Herald.
Michael Graham, we used to work in radio together. Nice to see you, Michael. Margery, it's
called
great to
that
see
work?
you. So we got to speak quickly on this one because I'm afraid someone will get fired during the show. This Washington Post thing, one more piece in the obstruction of justice puzzle for Bob Mueller, or just Trump being Trump and on to the next story?
Well, I think if he did dictate it, and he said it was all about adoption and not about being enticed by information, dirt on Hillary Clinton, so-called, it's another piece. I mean, there's so many pieces, but I would say if this proves to be true, it's one of the pieces.
Are you not in agreement?
Well, I'm agreeing that the statement is totally, garbage, but it's not a crime to lie to reporters, as reporters know, and that's who they lied to. And so it's yet another distraction in a story that I think in the end Democrats are going to regret. They spent so much time on this when there are so many other smarter ways to attack
But wait a
Trump.
second. If it turns out that Trump knew that he was doing a misleading statement, it does fit the obstruction of justice narrative,
okay,
does it not?
Lying to a reporter isn't obstructing justice or anything. It's just lying to a reporter. So,
I'm not saying the thing itself, but it is part. There are a lot of things
Right.
that Donald Trump has done that may not be criminal,
yeah.
that may help make the obstruction of justice
Nobody is
case.
doing a better job of looking guilty than Donald Trump. I mean, every day he can. But once again, at some point, someone's got to say, here's the core crime. Collusion is not a crime. Show me something that's a crime, and then I'll get interested. Meanwhile, this is all politics. And like I said, I think Democrats have much better things to go after Trump on than
I'm sorry,
well, although you could say that with the Congress that seems to be turning against the president at least a little bit with their Russian sanctions and their not going with him on health care. So, as you know, Michael, if it does get to be collusion, then I think that Congress may
Look,
be
any story that can get Jim the Red Browdy to criticize Russia is a good move. I'll take that.
Margery would only come on the show if we promised to speak briefly about the mooch. So,
the mooch.
Do you have a great memory or a great obscenity, your favorite obscenity from him?
What was hilarious was all of American people going, wow, they fired him after just 10 days. And political professionals, Republicans I know, were going, wow, he made it 10 days? How'd that happen? Like I told you earlier, I've loved Anthony Scaramucci ever since he went down south to get his cousin Vinny off that murder rap.
Okay.
I thought he was a great
Jim said he thought there was a method to the madness, that Trump did this on purpose.
This could
Did
be
he
the best
purposely
week.
hire him specifically to fire Reince
This could
Priebus?
be Trump's best week. That week you just described, as horrible as it is, because how does the week end up? General Kelly's the chief of staff. The mooch is gone. He whacked two ineffective people, Spicer and what's his name, Reince Priebus. And so this could be, like I said in the Herald column today, if the grown-ups show up, that's what should scare Democrats. Their numbers remain low, despite Trump's horrible 6 months. Hillary's less popular than she was when she ran.
Michael,
the Democratic Party is weak.
You're making
he still
a lot
has a chance to win.
Not much. What do conservatives want here? They didn't get their health care thing. Do they want a wall? Do they want tax reform? What is it that would make them happy? Because most of them aren't that happy
Okay.
with the President of the United States.
Conservatives who are ideological conservatives who've never been pro-Trump want a lot of things. They'd like to see Obamacare ended because the direction it goes is towards single payer.
Well, they lost
want
that
to change
one.
that. They lost it.
They
But I'm
lost
saying you're asking what they. But Trump supporters who are a different group, they want Trump wailing away on the people they hate, like Al Capone with a baseball
How about
bat and the
conservatives like
Untouchables.
you who can't stand Trump?
I want to see the legislation move forward. Notice who screwed it. It wasn't Trump. It was John McCain, a war hero who loved stabbing Republicans in the back.
Michael, I think the cat's out of the bag on the health care because, as everybody has said, you give someone an entitlement, it's really hard to take it away.
But that doesn't make it right. In other words, it doesn't
Well-
make the math work. Just because it's popular doesn't make it
But
smart.
it makes the Republicans unpopular because
sure.
when people find out that they had health care,
Right.
that they'd never had, millions of people,
Right.
and now the Republicans took it away, I think that it's gone. It's almost like gay rights.
You might absolutely be right about that, but when people start getting the bills for all the health care they're subsidizing for able-bodied adults who never should have been on Medicaid because Medicaid is not for them, and now the system is collapsing, when people can't find a doctor because there aren't enough doctors to go around,
Medicaid
because
is going to be for us when we get to be old and
Medicare.
infirm.
Medicare is for
no,
old and-
Medicaid.
Oh, is that what we're going to have?
Nursing homes,
Look,
Michael. I hope we don't wind
if-
up there, but we could.
If your vision for if the Democrats' vision for America is Medicaid for
Yep,
everyone,
yep.
then that's why you end up with
But
Donald
what are you
Trump.
saying? But she's right. It's not for some poor person. It's for your parents.
Medicaid.
It's for 2 million.
Medicaid.
Medicaid. No, Medicare.
Nursing
With it-
homes.
no,
you're talking- I see. You're talking
Medicaid.
That's right.
I'm talking about
Michael,
the
Michael,
primary function
Michael,
of Medicaid.
Michael, we're not getting any younger here. Have you been to nursing homes lately? The food is not great now. Imagine what it'll be like, if there's no money for Medicaid. We'll be eating, I don't know what,
Okay.
cardboard
I'm going to
boxes.
stash my ho-hos and ding-dongs before I go in. I'm going to
Can
be
we
all
do a
set.
tale of two headlines? I
Sure.
think we've seen the first headline that's going to appear in an ad, fairly or otherwise, for a Democrat running against Charlie Baker. It was this one this afternoon in Slate. Massachusetts governor sides with Trump over state Supreme Court on immigration. One, is it fair? And whether it's fair or not, is it going to stick?
No, there's no siding with. Charlie Baker isn't saying the Supreme Court SJC is wrong. He's saying we need a law. They've ruled we need a law so that when you're in Massachusetts and you're here illegally and ICE says, hey, could you hang on to that guy? He can't come back 20 more times like the guy they just busted this week in Oregon who sexually assaulted 2 women after 20 deportations.
Well, I understand. There's always a horrible case. There's always a horrible case to prove everything. But isn't it true that Charlie Baker is embracing something that Donald Trump wants governors to embrace? Isn't that what he just did?
Well, yeah, but I don't
Okay, but
understand.
I'm not saying
But I'm not saying like what. So Donald Trump also thinks that kids should get vaccinated. I mean, I don't know. Just
some
because
days
Trump
he
says
does.
it. It's,
Some days
good
he
point.
does.
Good point.
Thank you. What's your take on this thing?
I think Charlie Baker made a mistake because in Massachusetts we've had a lot of cases about people that were here illegally, no question about it, but they fled, like the guy from El Salvador
Francisco
who was fleeing for his
Rodriguez.
life, who started a carpet business, was employing people. I think a lot of people thought when Donald Trump was talking about the so-called bad hombres, nobody is opposed to getting rid of the bad
Yeah, but in
hombres.
fairness to Charlie
Lots-
Baker, Marjorie, Rodriguez wouldn't be covered by this. If Rodriguez
he's
10
talking
years
about-
ago had done a major marijuana
Right.
thing, he would be
But
subject to this.
I guess the question is, if you had an assault and battery when you're 18 years old and you're now 48, you get thrown out of the country, get detained because you're
Yes,
48.
under this Baker
That's what I'm
proposal.
saying.
Why
That's
you're
what
thrown
I'm
out of the
saying.
country? Because you came here illegally, because you've been committing a felony every year
Yeah.
you've been here by staying here, because you've committed tax
Michael,
fraud.
would you
because
flee
you've
El
denied
Salvador
work
if your
for-
employee was murdered? Would you flee El Salvador and try to get to the United States
I might
like
flee.
Rodriguez?
I might do something desperate. A hungry person might choose to rob a
Exactly.
store. So we don't
Or
put them in,
cross
we
the
don't put them in
border to feed
jail.
their kids.
We don't. I mean, the problem is if you have
he-
laws and people break those laws, there are either consequences or there are no
Marjorie.
laws.
But-
you support open borders, so you don't care that there's
But
no
you know,
law.
one of the greatest stories of all is the wife who voted for Trump and then discovered that her husband was deported
Indiana.
by Donald Trump in Indiana. So
Okay.
I think there's some rethinking on who are the
No,
people we want to
trust
get
me,
rid of.
Matthew Denise's family in Milford is not rethinking this.
I know.
They are
And-
not.
By the way,
They'll
that's not
repeat-
fair. They were
Oh,
here. His
repeat
parents were
offender?
here, by the way, and they're terrific people. You can always pick an individual example of where a policy
Which is why you
failed.
enforce the law like
Okay,
every
one
other
last
country
thing.
does.
Can we talk about another governor for a second?
Certainly.
I'm sure you're excited
Can I
about
read the
this.
headline?
No, you can't yet. But the headline from, I don't know where this was, Politico today. Here's the headline here. Obama's inner circle is urging Deval Patrick to run. It says Marjorie again, Barack Obama himself has urged him, Valerie Jarrett, a whole, David Axelrod obviously worked
Yeah.
for both of them. What do you make of this?
First of all, I have to say nothing has changed. After 2 minutes after talking to you, I'm so exhausted. I had been all asleep for 2 hours. But besides Deval Patrick, I mean, Deval Patrick has got a not a great management record in Massachusetts, but I'll say this for Deval Patrick, he's one of the most impressive candidates. I remember hearing at the Heinz Auditorium, you may have been there that day too, Deval Patrick was doing the wind-up for Barack Obama that was going to come into
Yep.
town. People talk about what a great speech maker Barack Obama was. I think Deval Patrick is a better speaker. I mean, he's got that black preacher thing going. You get tears in your eyes listening to him talk, and he's adorable.
And by the way, Deval's not buying in all fairness, Governor Patrick. What's your take on this?
Things haven't changed. We're still talking about illegal immigration and Deval Patrick. Here's my take on this from TheRoot.com, an African-American website. Please, Black Jesus, let this be true. Is Governor Patrick running for the White House in 2020? I'm with them. Please, Black Jesus, please let Deval Patrick run. As a Republican, I like lots of Massachusetts candidates for president because they haven't won since 1960. So keep them coming.
Great to
Has
see
it
you
been
again.
since 1960?
1960.
Oh, no.
Lots
Aren't
of
you glad to have him
candidates.
back?
I
Byron?
am.
I'm glad to be back.
Michael,
I'm
it's
glad to
great
be-
to see
Absolutely.
you.
Thank
Michael
you so
Graham,
much.
Marjorie Egan, thanks so much. You'll hear her tomorrow at 11 o'clock on Boston Public Radio.